Hey, ladies and gents, and welcome to the Controlled Interest Gamecast. We're talking about video games and everything happening in the industry. As always, I'm joined by Jordan.
Jefferson Davis is a weird thing for black parents to name their children in today's America.
No Dom this week, unfortunately. No guest. We were meant to have a guest as well. We don't have a guest either, so it's just Jordan and I have another Fireside Groove, episode 111. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Spider-Man a lot at the beginning of the show. We're going to keep it spoiler-free. Look for an actual spoiler mode discussion between Dom, Jordan, and I. Probably next week, whenever we can get to... Whenever Jordan and Dom both finish the game or are comfortable enough to talk about a majority of the game, we'll be recording that and putting that up as well. We're basically just going to be covering what we liked, what we didn't like about the game, and then obviously get into the news. Spider-Man, getting into what we've been playing, Spider-Man was pretty much the only game I played this week. We were talking before the show that I put in a good amount of hours almost every day since release. I just couldn't... you're playing a game you really enjoy when you're not playing it and you're continuously thinking about just wanting to go back and play it.
Or you're not playing it and you have the opportunity to play it and you choose pretty regularly to keep going back to it as opposed to, watching something or reading something.
Yeah. For me personally, the moments I wasn't playing this game, I wanted to be playing it. I really enjoyed it. Going off the top, so I'm pretty net positive on this game. There are a couple of things that are more nitpicky for me. We'll obviously get into that when we're talking about the things we weren't a huge fan of. But for me, just some of the highlights off the top of my head were the Spider Cop bit. So obviously Yuri is the person you kind of spend the whole time talking to on comms and getting missions and being updated through the main storyline of the game, as well as side missions and collectibles. And there's this whole Spider Cop bit, which is definitely in the humor of what you'd expect from a Spider-Man comic. And I just thought it was funny. The bit extends.
Dude, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I was cracking up. I'm positive on a lot of parts of this game, but I will say this might be the funniest game I've ever played. As far as not trying to be Borderlands or, another game I would put in there is Sunset Overdrive, which is Insomniac's last game, which is also very funny, but is trying to be funny,
Yeah.
Whereas this game's just funny because they're so well entrenched in that universe and they know these characters so well, so they know how to write them.
Yeah, and the funny thing, this isn't really a spoiler, but at the end of the game, you can go back into the world, into New York City, after you finished it, and one of the first lines from Spider-Man to Yuri after you finish the game is, "Looks like Spider-Cop's back on duty," and then she just sighs. So it's an ongoing thing even post-game, the Spider-Cop bit, which I really love.
Love it. Yeah, it's heavy towards the beginning, and then just recently he did something, and he had been talking to Yuri but hadn't mentioned it, and then he brought it back up. I was like, yeah, we're not done with the Spider Cop yet.
Yeah, he even has mentions to other comic books and stuff, so obviously people are familiar with Dan Slott's run where Spider-Man is cloned. I mean, it's multiple runs. Spider-Man's been cloned before, but one of the more infamous ones is obviously Ben Reilly and...
Scarlet Spider.
Yeah, so during some parts of the game, when there's a lot of, how would I say this without spoiling it? A lot of events you can, decide to do on the map. A lot of markers, a lot of different things you can do in different divisions of the city. He will say, "Oh man, there's so much going on, I wish I could clone myself." And there's a lot of little quips like that.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. Have you finished the backpacks by any chance?
Yep. I've done all backpacks, all Shadowcat locations, all landmarks, all the first two types of bases, which are the Kingpin and Demon bases. So Most of that collectible stuff I've finished.
So I want to talk about... I don't want to spoil anything in the backpacks for if you hadn't done it yet. For people who haven't done the backpacks yet, just skip 5 to 10 seconds. I'm just going to mention something real quick. I love for the backpacks that there's references to things that have happened in the past or other villains.
Right.
For instance,
Lizard,
I think it's
Rhino.
Even I think the backpack that's on Avengers Tower is the Sandman vial.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's
he's
a bunch of them. You have Rhino's horn broken off.
Yep.
Lizard's tail, something with the lizard. I remember. Yeah, there's a bunch.
Yeah, I love the Sandman thing. He's like, well, if I take him out of this vial, will he just reappear? And that's one thing I love about this game is that there are a lot of villains in it, but they're, I mean, there's not a lot of villains, but they reference a lot of villains, and there's threads there for future games where you can see these guys enter the mix. And I mean, I think the only main like known Spider-Man villain that I don't remember seeing referenced at all was Kraven the Hunter. I'm pretty sure, because I mean, there's references to Mysterio and Lizard and Sandman, obviously.
Scorpion.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing any Kraven the Hunter references.
I actually, this might be a spoiler. I might not even want to ask this question, but I haven't heard anything or seen anything about Venom yet.
Whether that's true or false, I'm just going to not say anything because I don't want to lead you either way. So I'm just gonna not reply to that at all. One thing I do want to say, and this isn't a spoiler because nothing happens with it in the game, but I want to mention it because I think it's a really cool thing. Once again, another thread for future games. And once again, skip like 2 minutes real quick if you think this is a spoiler. The scientist, the black scientist who has the dragon's breath, Jordan?
Yeah.
That's Morbius.
And what? Remind me, is he the vampire?
Vampire, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if he's gonna turn into Morbius at all, but that's his.
I
his
think
name
so.
is the alter
They're
ego of
setting up
Morbius.
a lot of people are getting set up for future games and stuff.
Yeah, which I'm super stoked about. Real quick, the other things. See, some of the stuff I love is like spoilers. So I don't want to mention it really. One of the major side missions in the game is you work with this ESU student to find people, right? Find missing people. That student that you meet with, I forgot his name off the top of my head, but he's actually important in the Dan Slott run, which people are very divided on. There's the whole Parker Industries thing where Spider-Man is essentially Iron Man. In that, whether you like it or not, in that one of his like more prominent workers at his facility, forgot the guy's name. He's an Asian guy. That's that guy in the game, the person you work with on the side mission. So that was a really cool.
I think his name is Mao Zedong.
Something like that. Yeah. I don't know. If
it's a reference to why the fuck did you name somebody Jefferson Davis if he's a black guy? It's like naming an Asian guy Mao Zedong. Like, they're not. Jefferson Davis is not in the same realm, but I was very surprised when I found that part of the Miles Ultimate Comics was his dad's name Jefferson Davis, and he's a black guy. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't want to get onto this tangent, Jerrad, but since we went down that road, I was like,
yeah, it's pretty much. There's a lot of stuff I love about the game. So real quick, the combat I think is really fluid. I like it a lot. We were talking about before the show. For me, I think it's in most ways better. It obviously borrows from Arkham, and I don't want to take that away from Arkham. Obviously, it's built on a lot of those same mechanics, but it's way more deep. There's a lot of different combos. There's a lot of different ways to approach combat. We also talked about how I felt that in Arkham, you can kind of just, at least on the regular difficulty, you can kind of just mash square or, X if you're on Xbox. You can just mash that over and over again to just kind of win in combat. Obviously, the harder difficulties you go, like you said, you kind of have to learn dodging a little bit more specifically. But the combat itself feels authentic to Spider-Man, and that's another gripe I have with the Arkham games, where we talked about this before the show too. Batman, a lot of times in the Arkham games, doesn't move like Batman should or would in combat, for better or worse. But yeah, I love the combat in this game, and I mean the obvious elephant in the room, or Rhino, if you may. I love the traversal in this game. Like, this is definitely a game I'll go back to when I'm finished with it and just swing through the game and just pass time. Like, it's so good. We expected it. It's Insomniac, but oh man.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can see the fingerprints of Sunset Overdrive all fucking over this game. And one of my minor complaints is, like, there's this weird thing where you'll finish a main mission and they'll make you wait till the next main mission pops up because they're trying to encourage you to do side stuff. But it's really not long. Like, if you just swing around for 2 minutes. Then, yeah, it's the weirdest, most arbitrary bullshit. But I will say, if it's going to be in any game, this one would be okay because then I can just swing around for 2 minutes and I'm totally cool. But I was like, why the fuck would you do that? Like, first of all, just let me play the way I want to fucking play. If I don't want to do your side missions, I'm not gonna fucking do them. You know, like, which I was, but like, don't force somebody to do side stuff.
Yeah, I don't think they're forcing. I think it was just their way and maybe not executed perfectly. Obviously, I think it's a weird middle ground of like, either extend that a little bit more, so I kind of have no choice but to do.
Oh, fuck that, dude! No, it's like you're taking choice away from the player. I don't like that.
Yeah, but 2 minutes isn't though.
That.
So you're having the argument that if they would have it longer, they would have it. But now at 2 minutes, like 1 or 2 minutes, you're saying that they're also forcing you. I don't think that's the case. I think if
they're not. They're not forcing you because it's side stuff. Like, you can't force someone to do side stuff. That's why it's called side stuff. It doesn't. You don't have to do it to complete the game. But they're pushing you to do it. They're being pushy about it, in my opinion. I'm like, guys, fuck off. Let me play the game the way I want to fucking play it. You know, like, it's the same thing when developers, you can tell the developers are, like, giggling at you and, like, they're putting in, like, some extra hard little difficulty blip here, or they're making you do this extra thing just to be obnoxious, and they're kind of, like, snickering, you know, whenever they're building it in the game. You can kind of just tell. And I just don't appreciate it. Like, I paid for your game. Don't flip me the fucking bird, you know?
I think that's your own personal take on it. For me, I didn't feel that way at all. I thought it was, like, actually a nice breather to not have to worry about jumping to the next story mission. Like, it was just,
I guess it's like if a director put out a movie and, you know, halfway through it just paused for 30 seconds. No matter if you had the Blu-ray or the fucking digital copy. It's just like, well, this is how I wanted it to be. It's not part of the movie, but I just don't want you to watch it all the way through in one sitting. I want you to pause and think about it for 30 seconds. It's like, fuck off, dude. Let me watch. I bought the movie.
Yeah, I have to disagree with that analogy. I don't think it's apples to apples necessarily, because movies don't really have things like side missions. I wouldn't say commentary is side missions. Games have commentary too. So, like, I'd have to disagree with you on that.
I'm just saying, don't push me to do something outside of what the thing is. You know, if it's a game, like, the story is the game. The side missions are like, you know, your side dishes on a plate, essentially. It's not your bread and butter. It's not your meat and potato type of deal. So it's like, I just don't like being pushed in any direction from a developer other than, here's how to play the game, go enjoy. You know, I just don't like when they do that.
I just have to disagree that they're pushing you, because so in the game, all of the markers on the map.
What else would it be?
Well, let me explain myself real quick. So, in the game, all of the markers are on the map. When you're actually just, like, swinging through the city, the only marker that pops up on your screen, unless you hit R3 to, like, have the, like, little wave thing, the only thing that ever pops up on your screen is the main story mission, the yellow triangle, right? Actually, it's a diamond.
The blue diamonds don't?
No, the blue diamonds don't
side
at all.
Missions don't?
No, they don't. At any point in the city, if the only thing you see from a distance, no matter how far away from you are the main story missions. So when you actually finish those main story missions, there's like that brief pause. There's nothing on your map. It's not pinging all of the side story missions and saying go play them. It's literally just it has nothing on the screen. I would agree with you more.
But it does pop up. It pops up and says, do side missions. It's something along the lines of do side missions to upgrade your equipment and buy new suits.
Yes.
So it's like, it is pushing you in that direction, in my opinion. When it says that and it takes away your option to directly go to your next mission. It also, this is a minor gripe, so we're kind of spending a long time on it. It's my fault, but it leads me to another minor gripe, which they didn't have in Sunset Overdrive, which is like, if I'm playing an open world game and it has these main missions, if I, like, as I'm swinging into the main mission, about to drop onto the building or whatever, it'll just automatically jump me in, instead of like Sunset Overdrive, Infamous Second Son, other open world games, where you get there to where the diamond is on your map, or you're on the screen, and then you press circle or X to start the mission. And I just don't like in an open world game. If it was a linear game, that's different. Just things triggering like that. But once again, I feel like if I wasn't trying to do this main mission and I just flew by it because I'm like trying to catch one of these birds real fast or whatever, you just like yanked me out of what I was doing, and I never hit a button to jump into this mission like most open world games would.
Yeah, I think I partially agree with you in the sense that I wish the cone for those activating was smaller. Like, I'm okay with it like swooping in, but it's kind of
the
big.
whole block on almost. Wow, almost. That's a word I know how to say.
I'm okay with this snapping in, but I can see your argument there, especially in an open world game. If they maybe shrink the cone there, I would be more okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need the button.
This is the same thing as like I can't turn off subtitles when I'm playing the Kingdom Hearts remasters. It's like, just let me have the option. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I'm thinking about it. It's not the end of the world.
So I'm kind of finished with all my pluses and minuses. We got into a couple of your negatives there. But we've kind of been going a bit, so I definitely want you to get into what you enjoyed and what you didn't enjoy so much as well, too.
So, real quick, I just want to say I played a few more hours of Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep to kind of take a break from Spider-Man, and that's a game I've already beat and I've started multiple times, so I'm just playing it with actually Ultimate Spider-Man, the cartoon in the background. Which is not as bad as some people say, but I can totally understand why some people dislike it. And then I've also been reading The Shining by Stephen King. I've obviously seen the film, but I hear that they depart from each other quite a bit, and so I wanted to check out the book before I rewatch the movie, and really enjoy it. I think they're both incredible in their own right, but I could see why Stephen King was upset originally about some of the changes that were made, because as far as like from a writer's perspective, I could see how there was a lot of stuff that just got thrown out that he felt and I feel is important. So,
and if you hear the story about how the director treated the female lead in that movie, ooh, not great.
Stanley Kubrick. She had to get therapy and Stanley Kubrick's one of those guys, that has stories like that. But yeah, cool stuff. Great book. If you're into Stephen King, if you're into horror, if you're into great books, I'd recommend it. So, anyway, Spider-Man. I guess since I've already started talking about my negatives, I'll finish talking about my negatives. My big negative is I love playing as Spider-Man and Peter Parker. I think, obviously, playing as Spider-Man is a fucking blast, and I'll get into that more in a second. You touched on it a little bit on the stuff we agree on. And I even enjoy the puzzles when you're like trying to find what chemical you're dealing with, or when you're doing the electricity puzzles. I enjoy that stuff, playing as Peter Parker, being in Doc Ock's office, or even really it's just dialogue that you're doing in the Feast homeless shelter or whatever. But I like playing as Peter Parker. I like playing as Spider-Man. I do not like playing as Mary Jane Watson or Miles Morales. I think Miles is okay. If it was mostly you're playing Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and then a little bit of Miles, I would be cool. The Mary Jane stuff starts out not great, and the part that I just played, which I don't even think is the end of it, I thought was actually bad and even terrible, garbage level. And I don't think I'm personally over exaggerating, because I really tried to look at it from a game design perspective, and the mission that I'm talking about, it really is not a spoiler, is the Grand Central Terminal, and you're trying to sneak around and get to this bomb, right? Your mission objective is, as Mary Jane Watson, you go into these situations, and it's like light stealth. You're basically just sneaking around, boxes and stuff, and then throwing out distractions, or knocking stuff over for distractions. And then in this situation, you have the added part of being able to call Spider-Man down and do stealth takedowns real quick on some of these guys. And playing it, your mission objective is to get back to the bomb that you started at before the cutscene. And so I was doing that, and then I eventually realized there were multiple times where I was going to the bomb, which is in the middle of the room, and there's a bunch of people sitting around it, and it's got an invisible wall around the bomb. And I'm like, what the fuck? The mission objective says get to the bomb. But then I see the actual yellow diamond is elsewhere. So it's telling you to do one thing and wanting you to go do something else. You don't actually go to the bomb, even though that's your mission objective.
Well, they tell you have to work your way. You have to work your way around to not be seen, though.
Oh well, sure. I knew that I was doing stealth. I wasn't just trying to run over to the bomb. I stealth over to the bomb. I still haven't been seen, and then I'm hitting this invisible wall around the bomb, and my mission objective still says get back to the bomb.
Yeah.
But then the actual diamond is pinpointed on a location over here. I was like, that is ass fucking backwards. And not only that, but I do think that generally the stealth is just serviceable, and there's even a couple parts before that you're in a pseudo military base, and there's a couple parts where I'm like, yeah, I can get through this, and I might have, got caught a couple times just because I was trying to get through these parts. I really didn't enjoy them. But there's a couple parts where it's just like, okay, you really have to like maneuver the fuck out of this situation because they've got guys looking every single fucking direction, and so you have to like distract this guy, get behind him before he turns his ass around, and like get this guy like. I just thought that was poorly designed, and then once you actually get into the Grand Central Terminal situation, I thought it was terribly designed because there are literally guys facing in every direction, in almost every 5 feet in the room, and so you can only call Spider-Man down every so often. So you're like waiting, trying like, hurry up, Spider-Man, hurry up, because I'm about to get seen behind me because this guy's turning around. He's not looking at my distraction anymore. And I'm waiting on Spider-Man, and there's 3 other guys that could walk up on me anytime. And then, of course, it's compounded by, them, like, having this fucking red herring as far as what your actual objective is. And so I was getting very frustrated, but I was also trying to look at it from a rational perspective of, like, no, like, this is poorly fucking designed, in my opinion, obviously. But I think, no hyperbole, I think that mission specifically is very poorly designed, and I just think, in general, Mary Jane's parts are poorly designed. And really, I think the Mary Jane and the Miles parts are unnecessary. Like, when they announced, or I guess they didn't really announce it, like, people noticed in one of the trailers, like, it looks like Mary Jane's playable, and everybody's getting hyped as fuck. I'm like, this does not sound like a good idea to me. This kind of sounds like the fucking Aunt May movie that they were trying to do. Like, why would I want to be playing as Mary Jane? Why would I want to be, like, diving in? Like, just give me cutscenes with her, Unless you're going to make a Mary Jane game where she's like a photojournalist and you're stealthing around. That'd be different. But clearly these sections didn't get the focus and attention that the other ones did, in my opinion. And so, like, I just think you already switch up. There's already, like, plenty to do in the game. And I think they do a great job of giving you lots of diverse objectives and challenges that you can... for the main story and also for side stuff, you can keep yourself from getting bored or feeling too monotonous, because I feel like there's a ton of stuff to do. And then on top of that, you add, in my opinion, I think the Peter Parker parts with the puzzles are great, and that's already enough of a break from being Spider-Man for me. And so I'm like, the Miles parts are just serviceable, and then the Mary Jane parts eventually turn out to be bad, in my opinion. So I just really think that that's probably the weakest part of the game.
I'm gonna have my rebuttal to this. A lot of the stuff you said, I do agree with. I'm not gonna be the devil's advocate on everything. So what I will say is that I think that is poorly designed. If you can stealth to the part you're supposed to get to in the wrong direction, that's just poor design. Like, there should be no way for you to stealth to that objective, so it's clear that you can't go that direction, right? So
or just don't tell me to fucking go over there, like.
Well, no, but if they design it in a way that you can't get over there no matter what, then you'll realize that you can't go that direction. But the fact that you were able to stealth and get there and then realize there's a box, I have to go a separate direction, that is a bad game design. If they manage it in a way where there's literally no way you can get across the room in that direction, then it'll tell you through game design, I'm not supposed to go this direction, right? So the fact that you were able to get there is bad design. I agree with you on that. You saying that it was... the way they had the enemies laid out, you found it frustrating. For me personally, I didn't. I thought it was pretty easy. Well, I'm not saying in terms of difficulty. I thought the way they lined up the enemies, it was pretty easy to get through, and not have to worry about being spotted or anything like that. I didn't have any issues with that.
If I had known where I was trying to get to in the first place,
exactly, that might have been compounded.
Difficult.
Yeah,
it wasn't that difficult. It's just that I'm trying to get to the other side of the room when really I only need to get to 50% halfway across the room. And I do feel like there were too many enemies in there, facing in every direction. But yeah, I think it was partially compounded with me being kind of like tricked almost or whatever.
Yeah, I do. So I like the Miles parts, and obviously I finished. I don't know if we said this at the top. You haven't finished the game yet. You're about 70% through. I finished the game. I like the Miles parts as a whole. I do agree to the point that I think there's too much of both of them, and I would have honestly, by finishing the game, I would have much rather had it be you play Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and Miles, or Mary Jane, Peter Parker, and Spider-Man. Though I like Miles more than Mary Jane. I'm just saying I do want both of them. You know what I mean?
But you also feel that you wouldn't want just Spider-Man, Peter Parker.
I mean, I'd be fine with that too. I'm just saying the Miles stuff didn't bother me that much, and I actually like playing as him because there's some character development stuff that happens when playing with him. So like, there's
sure,
actually
I just feel like that could have been accomplished in a cutscene, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I like it. I think it's a nice change of pace because with Peter, you don't really do anything outside of a building. You know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, and they could have just as easily had you like light stealthing as Peter because he can't get to his suit because his web shooters are at home or broken.
Yeah.
Or whatever,
So if they would have done stuff with Peter that they did with Miles, then I'm okay.
Yeah,
with
and
that.
I think that would work. You do Spider-Man stuff. You do Peter Parker sciencey stuff, and then you do Peter Parker. You know, if he was actually, there's plenty of times where he's a photojournalist. That could have been a thing.
Yeah, I'm not as against Miles. The Mary Jane stuff, I will agree with you.
It's
that,
not as offensive to me.
Yeah, the Mary Jane stuff. So my problem with Mary Jane is that she doesn't really differentiate herself from Miles or Peter. The thing with Mary Jane is if you're going to play as Mary Jane, I would love if it has to do specifically stuff with photos. Obviously, she's a photojournalist. Or
which it does, but very lightly.
Very lightly.
It's more about the stealth.
Or if it was centered around her being a journalist and you talking to people in an LA noir type fashion, where you get into having dialogue with people.
See, what we're talking about, Jerrad, are creative options to this kind of problem that we're looking at. Whereas I think what they came up with were very lazy and surface level.
Well, I do think though is that
these situations.
Yeah, and I do think that this is gameplay stuff that Insomniac. You can obviously tell they nailed the movement in the game because that's something they have a lot of experience with. With these little like side mission things and introducing side characters, you can tell that they don't have as much expertise in that, and
they
hopefully
haven't done an LA noir.
Yeah. In future games, if they try this different stuff, maybe it'll be better fine tuned. But like I do think that the Mary Jane stuff should be more specifically Mary Jane if you're gonna have you play as her. Yeah, I don't find it as like terrible or like offensive as you do. That being said, I could have completely been fine with it not being in the game either. You know what I mean? So it's not like a big issue for me, but I'm fine with it not existing as well. Like it is what it is.
Unfortunately, it knocks it down from being an amazing or spectacular game, down to being a great game, a really great game, unfortunately. Because that's if it was once at the beginning or once in the middle, it'd be one thing, but these are peppered quite often throughout, whether it's Mary Jane or Miles, and like I said, if it was just Miles, I'd be cool and it wouldn't really detract from the game at all, but the fact that it's Miles, which I'm not in love with, and then Mary Jane, which I really don't like, is just like, this kind of knocks it down a notch.
Yeah. Before we hop into the news and stuff, is there anything else you want to talk about with Spider-Man?
So just positive stuff real quick. I think the story is really solid. We talked before the show about a couple of things that I'm kind of wondering about, but seem like they'll be resolved by the end. I think I told you guys, I think they've taken the crown as far as facial motion capture, which is interesting. It's Mary Jane is played by Laura Bailey, but I swear to God, she looks like a redheaded version of Ashley Johnson, who's the voice actress for Ellie.
I didn't even notice that till you just said that. Yeah.
But can't you see that? Like,
yeah.
She really does. Like they just used her as the motion capture and then gave the character red hair. But anyways, I think that they've surpassed The Witcher, which had the crown up until this point as far as facial motion capture and showing the detail, the pores on the face, and the way their facial muscles tighten in exactly or pretty close to exactly the way that they should, and then their eyes don't look glossed over and like they're fucking not alive essentially. So I really appreciate that. I really want to give a shout out to some of the artwork that I can tell is just like some artist that works at Insomniac, and they got to do a bunch of like graffiti art,
random
that's
assets
placed throughout the city, but I'm like really appreciating it as art, and I like graffiti in general, so I just want to shout that out. Obviously,
Jordan, I couldn't count. Sorry to interrupt you. I couldn't count the number of times that I would just be going through the city and enter photo mode and just take pictures of like dope graffiti, like the art on the walls and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's dope. I want to take a picture of that. So yeah, to your point, it's awesome.
I just can't get into photo mode. I think if it was a little bit easier to get them to my computer, I think that'd be a thing. But the fact that they're like stored on my PlayStation, which is not like an accessible, like I couldn't, if I'm out and about and like talking to a friend about Spider-Man, like, oh, let me show you my photo library on my phone, you know, of like what I've been taking in Spider-Man. Just because they're locked on that system, I can never, in Horizon, God of War, whatever, I'm never really into photo mode.
I'm thinking of just setting
I
up.
Appreciate it.
I'm thinking of setting up a secondary Twitter account and just connecting that, and then just tweeting them all in that account, and then saving them on that from that Twitter account.
That's like, you could do that. You could put them on a flash drive,
but it shouldn't be that difficult.
Have to do a roundabout way. Yeah, like it should go through the PlayStation app on my phone, and I can show you, if I was there in person with you, it'd be like, hey, look at all my photos.
Or an option to email it to yourself, which I don't think is available. I think it's like Twitter, Facebook.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But anyways, it is a gorgeous game. 4K HDR. It looks crispy as fuck, and it is a marvel what they've been able to do with this game, because God of War and Horizon, as PS4 exclusives, have really tapped into that as well. But we've talked about this before. Having an open world game like Horizon, you brought this up, Jerrad. It was a good point of like, that's an open world game, and it is massive and beautiful, all that, but it's not a city. It's not densely populated. There's not a shit ton going on the screen every single second, right?
Yeah.
And same with God of War. Like, it's lush, it's beautiful, it's detailed, but it's linear, and it's not in a city. You know, there's a lot of just like open vistas that you're looking at. And Spider-Man, you're in the middle of fucking Manhattan, and there's a really decent amount of people. Obviously not the same as actual fucking real New York.
Yeah.
But it felt alive to me. It felt like there were people all over the place, and like it was a city. And it didn't have the problems of like Assassin's Creed Unity, where it's like, look at all these guys waving their arms independently, you know, they've got different colored shirts on. Like, no, these felt like people that weren't breaking the fucking game just so they could walk around and look like an asshole in the city, you know. Like, they really did that, really pulled that off. From a performance perspective, they pulled it off really well. There's been barely any frame rate hitches. There's been a couple of things where like I'll shoot a web at somebody and it'll attach right in front of them, like it'll attach to the air in front of them, if that makes sense, instead of attaching to their body. And that's happened multiple times, but that's the biggest glitch I've had. I haven't had a crash or anything. So yeah, just the general cohesive package. I will say I think it borrows a little too heavily from the Arkham series. It does take the combat. It completely borrows that combat, but then does make it a lot more detailed. That's fine. But then, like, when you're descrambling the towers, you're using both sticks for that puzzle for a wavelength, which is exactly how they do it in Batman. Some of the puzzles that I was talking about earlier as Peter Parker are very similar to Batman. And just the concepts themselves of these things, it's like, well, how did Arkham do it? Oh, let's do it like Arkham and kind of just have our Spider-Man version of it. Which is okay, but it's just not, you know, this is kind of like what people were saying with God of War. Like, it's not gonna fucking, you know, rewrite your brain, but it's going to show you how well an open world can be, or how well an action-adventure game can be in the sense of God of War. So, yeah, I will say it's a great package. I like building out Spider-Man, and I do like personalizing him with gadgets and skills and suits. One other minor complaint, right, just to finish up here, there are 6 different types of tokens plus 1 type of skill point, so that makes basically, in my opinion, 7 currencies in the game. I think that's absolutely ridiculous, and one of the currencies you don't even get till way late in the game, like 50 or 60% through the game. What they're trying to do there is they're like, well, we want you to have all these types of activities so you don't get bored doing the side stuff. Where I'm thinking, like, well, you can still have 6 types of activities, but just tie them to 2 or 3 different types of coinage. Like, I don't need 7 different currencies to keep up with, because every fucking time I go in to upgrade a gadget or a suit, it's like, well, I have plenty of fucking base tokens, but not challenge tokens. What are challenge tokens? I can't even figure it out on Google, because nobody wants to spoil the story about what challenge tokens are tied to. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, can we just have like a more cohesive... I just thought that was a poor design choice there. but I do appreciate them wanting to give me lots of various activities, of course, to do. So, but overall, I think it's a really great game. I was telling you earlier, I am having more fun with it than God of War, but I think God of War is overall a better video game, pound for pound. So that is still in the running or in the lead for my game of the year. But loving Spider-Man, and certainly going to finish the story and maybe even end up doing all the side stuff, pushing into like platinum territory. So we'll see. But yeah, love it.
Nice. My quick closing comments are: I'm obviously striving for the platinum. I'm pretty close. I think I just need to finish up a couple of areas in the city. And a couple of side activities, and I think I'm good. I already have all the suits unlocked, which I want to get into in the spoiler mode. I don't want to talk about it here because obviously it's spoilers. One thing I want to mention too is in one of the windows, this isn't a spoiler, Jordan, in one of the windows you can see somebody, and on their somebody's room, and on their cabinet they have a figurine of Spider-Man, and they have a figurine of Venom. So
I noticed that like there was a room like that, and then I went to the room right next to it.
The same thing.
Exact same room, and then the two rooms next to that are the exact same. And then it's like, okay, you didn't have to do rooms, like just make it dark. So I would have just wished. I appreciate the Easter egg, but that could have been in like a shop or whatever. I also just thought it was funny that they had the shirtless Spider-Man, which is like a kind of funny Greg Miller Easter egg. Did you find that?
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. So
the funny thing too is they couldn't do
lots of great Easter eggs.
They couldn't do the bull in Square. Help me out. What's
Madison Square Garden?
No, not Madison Square Garden. What's the place like downtown in New York where everyone goes with the giant billboards?
Oh fuck, Times Square.
Times Square. They couldn't do the bull.
So
that's not in Times Square. Sorry, it's in the financial district. They couldn't do the bull.
What's his name from Inhumans?
Yeah. God, his name is escaping me right now. I want to say Pork Chop, but that's not it.
It's something like that, yeah. Like a goofy dog name.
Which
there's also a lot of like Marvel Easter eggs. Like I don't think it's a spoiler to say it has nothing to do with the story that you can find the Sanctum Sanctorum. You can find the
Embassy of
Wakanda Embassy. Yeah, like cool shit.
Hell's Kitchen, you can find Alias Investigations as well as Fogwell's Gym, which is the gym where Daredevil's dad trained. Yeah, a bunch of cool stuff. Yeah. Can't wait to get to our spoiler mode of Dom and talk about the game because there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about. There's a lot of things I want to talk about in terms of the sequel. Cool. And like we talked about the threads that they have in this game, the possibilities for the future are awesome. Really excited.
I will say, just real quick on that, I thought it was weird. Like, they changed some stuff up from the like E3 presentations and trailers, demos, whatever.
Yeah.
I was cool with that, but I was just like, I'm about to do the raft mission, and like you were saying, I'm like 70 to 75% through the game. That's a little too late to be shown at E3 for me.
Yeah.
And not only that, but like, I really felt like even Insomniac was giving me the impression of like, oh, Mr. Negative's going to be the villain that you face for like maybe the first third or half of the game, but then we're going to get into like the real villain, and that's really like Mr. Negative is the fucking villain of the game, which I think is, there are other villains, but like he's the main villain in my opinion. I mean, if I'm 75% through the game and he's been the guy the whole time, so I'm like, I think that's a little weak. Like Spider-Man has so many villains that it's like you could have still had like a home run villain here in the first game and still had plenty for the next couple games. And then the fact that it's like, well, we had the Sinister Six in this game. It's like, yeah, but I don't even get to them until 3/4 of the way through. So that was a little weird. It was kind of like not as bad as like the Halo 5 situation where people were like, this is not what you were telling us it was, but it was a little wonky.
I'm fine with it. I like having a villain that I'm not like uber familiar with, alongside other villains, especially because we know we're going to get a sequel for this game, so it's like I'm cool with the opportunities there. I just think that I think Insomniac themselves too wanted to make it more personal to them, of like, okay, we're going to make a game, we're going to have a lot of the villains that people like, but let's do something that's like uniquely us. No one's ever made Mr.
Yeah, like
Negative,
when people think of Mr. Negative, they're not going to think of him popping up in some animated series or a comic. Like, it's going to be this game. So that is, I can agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. lastly, I don't want to spend too much time on this because we're already long, and I want to get to news.
We're blowing it out. This is this is a gigantic PS4 exclusive, so I get it.
The last thing I wanted to say is obviously I'm a new PS4 user. That's a big thing that kind of got lost in this whole thing.
I was just about to say, it's a system seller for you.
Yeah, I know people are gonna hate me for that. You didn't buy it for God of War Horizon. You bought it for Spider-Man. Who cares? I bought one. The thing I wanted to mention, and this is all personal opinion, so don't come at me with pitchforks. I've talked about before. I owned a PlayStation. I owned a PS2. Then I got a 360, Xbox One. I had a PS3, but I only played Last of Us on it. I didn't play it for trophies or literally anything because I got it very late in the life cycle, right? Just to play Last of Us. So this is my first experience with trophies. Obviously, the system, like the trophies and achievements, are pretty much the same for the most part. The one thing I will say, from my perspective and my opinion on it and my experiences, is I just think achievements are more satisfying when they pop than trophies. It's just the
trophies. Like, is there a ding that I turned off? Do you have a ding on by default?
Yeah, it's like the ding.
Yeah. So they have that. I will say on one of these later updates, now that we're several years into the PS4, the notifications that pop up are white now, and they used to be black, and they look way uglier than they used to. So that's less satisfying when I get a trophy of like this. It's like a dark scene that I'm in, and this fucking white thing just pops in when it used to be like sleek black.
With the achievement,
just from a UI perspective.
With the achievements on Xbox, the achievement pops up whatever color your profile color is. So whatever color you choose.
Right.
So
which speaks to the Xbox being a better like customizable platform, in my opinion.
Yeah. So the achievement pop is a lot more satisfying to me. The noise is the little twirl, the animation of the achievement actually coming in on the bottom of the screen. Though now
Much less basic.
You can put it wherever you want. For me, the trophy thing is just like kind of like it is what it is. Like it's like the noise isn't very satisfying. The animation of it popping up isn't satisfying. It's just like a rectangle on screen. It's just not very like aesthetically pleasing.
That is a little arbitrary to me personally. I could see why you care about that. To me, it's more like, why on Xbox can I see that I have 5 out of these 8 collectibles that I need, and on PlayStation it's just like, well, fucking, I don't know, memorize it, write it down, buddy, or like clearly it's keeping a tally because it would have to do that for you to pop the trophy. So it's like, fucking give me the progress, I love that on Xbox, that it's like, oh, I've only got 2 more of these towers to climb. I'll just grab those real quick,
Yeah, I'm not going to judge the overall UI of PSN from my personal perspective just yet because I've only had it for a week, so I kind of want to, it could just be me not being used to it yet, and once I'm actually used to it, then I'm going to give my opinions on what I feel about it, so I'm not going to rush into that too much. The other thing with trophies, though...
Xbox is better for me, but it's a little too busy, and I don't like that it has baked-in ads even if you're a gold subscriber.
Well, PSN has ads too, on the store and stuff.
They have these random fucking Destiny popped up on my XMB even though I'm not playing it. That is horse fucking shit, and I can't believe they did that. But those aren't like.
Yeah, I'm not disqualifying
like twice throughout the whole life cycle. Whereas Xbox, it's like you're going to see an ad when you turn your system on.
Yeah, I got you. Completely see your point there. The last thing I want to say with trophies, and correct me if I'm wrong. So when a trophy pops up, you push the PlayStation button, and it sends you to the trophies menu, right? And then you can scroll through the trophies and see the trophy you just unlocked.
I gotta fucking sync.
Well, and it also sends you to an entirely different thing. On Xbox, the moment you pop an achievement, you can pop up the side menu and see exactly all of the achievements there with your game still on screen.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, it was a separate app originally, right? And, like, there is an achievements app. Like, it was taking you to that app, right?
So, are you talking about on 360 or are you talking about an Xbox One?
Originally on Xbox One.
It was separate, but they updated it.
They did a total overhaul maybe 2 years ago.
Yes. The Snap it was a new addition. That's where it pops up on the side. Yeah.
But it's like, well, we're 5 years in, PlayStation. Why haven't you updated it to... Because they actually have, like, you hold the menu down and it kind of does the Snap thing, similar to Xbox now. So it's like, yeah, why couldn't we do that just for trophies? I agree, Jared.
I think, for me, going to try to find the games I currently own and download them was a little bit more difficult than I anticipated. Like, the fact that it's called Media Library is weird to me. And you go in there and it's like, I just don't like that.
Really, I think once you get in there, it's really the same. Like, you have your purchase, you have your actually downloaded, you have your apps.
in there is easy. I'm just saying I wasn't looking for the games I own to download them. I didn't expect to look at media library, because for me being on Xbox, media library is like pictures and videos and stuff. It's not games, right? It makes sense.
I'll say I'm trying not to go down this rabbit hole because I know we're trying to like do a show here, and I could talk about fucking graphic design and user interface and all this type of shit for days on end. But I will say that this is where it truly shines that Microsoft is a software company traditionally, and Sony is a hardware company. That's why the PS3s weren't blowing up and red ringing, and that's why you mostly get a better UI experience when you're playing Microsoft consoles.
Yeah. Which is, it's really interesting to see Microsoft kind of tout the strongest console now too, because they're trying to get both, and we'll see how that ends up panning out in the long run.
Yeah.
Anyways, like I said,
and with their introduction,
it's good.
Really quick. With their introduction, they're like doing Surface tablets, and they're finally making their own laptops as opposed to just doing Windows software. It's like Microsoft is trying to complete that circle, whereas Sony is like, these issues you're bringing up are valid, and it's like, you guys need to fucking get on it when it comes to like making better UI. Like, you know, we could talk about the Vita bubbles or the XMB from the PS3. You know, it's like, yeah, I see Microsoft doing a better job at playing in Sony's field than Sony is at playing in Microsoft's.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, if you're in a ecosystem long enough, you kind of are like, yeah, those things suck, but I'm just going to deal with it. This is my ecosystem. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure there's plenty of PlayStation players out there like, yeah, it's whatever, just deal with it. Who cares, dude? Whereas,
if you, by the way, random note, if you have like weird questions, for whatever fucking reason, I get into the nitty gritty of these systems, and I know like random shit. If you ever have questions, I can probably point you in the right direction. Yeah,
and for me, being somebody who's playing on Xbox for the last 15 years, no, that's wrong. 13 years. There's stuff that I kind of am like, it's whatever, dude, just deal with it on Xbox, you know? So I understand the parallel there. But weekend, it's cool. I like the DualShock 4. It is meatier than the DualShock 3. I don't feel like I'm going to break it, which is good. For me, so this doesn't really affect Spider-Man, and it probably won't affect God of War either, because with the statement I'm about to make, I still will always prefer offset sticks for shooters. I just think it feels better for shooters, in my opinion, being somebody who's played Xbox forever. But I do like the DualShock 4. It's cool.
So if you put a DualShock 3 and a DualShock 4 like legs touching each other, you can see that the sticks, they've moved them out like wider from PS3 to PS4. Yeah, it's interesting, and I will say that has made a big difference. I
just like that it's girthier. Like it feels like an actual controller.
I think ergonomically, this is the best controller I've ever used. The way it's like a wave almost going up the back.
Yeah.
But if I could take those fucking textured sticks from the Xbox One controller and the vibrations in individual triggers, there's some shit on the Xbox One controller that I would kill to have on PS4. So I think if you could combine the Xbox One controller and the DualShock 4, you would have the best controller of all time, hands down.
And I think the offset versus parallel sticks, I think that's a personal preference. The stuff you're mentioning with the like the texture and stuff, I think that's definitely something that's for everyone. Universally, that should be on all controllers, right?
Yeah.
So the offset.
It makes a difference for shooters on those vibrational things.
Yeah, the feedback.
Vibrators in the haptic feedback in your two triggers. Like, it's awesome the way that feels, and like they're really sensitive to, like, there's different levels of sensitivity on that. So
yeah. Overall, enjoying my time with the PS4. Obviously, I'll give updates as they go on and talk about that. Let's talk about the news. We're running long, so we're not going to go super long on the first story because I want to get to the Nintendo Direct. But I wanted to mention this especially because me and you really enjoy Assassin's Creed. Me more so as of late, you not so much. So they detailed Assassin's Creed Odyssey Season Pass. It was recently outlined. So it's going to be $40. That's not a big surprise. Everyone expects it to be about that price. Season passes usually are $40. The interesting thing here is that it's going to have 2 story-centric episodic arcs post-launch. So the first one is one that me and you are going to be interested in, Jordan. The first episodic arc is called Legacy of the First Blade, which essentially tells the story of the first person, the first assassin to use the hidden blade. Because if you remember, Bayek didn't use the hidden blade. So that's what people
I gotta say, for it being called Assassin's Creed Origins, I was disappointed, or at least where I'm at in the game, which is not maybe 30% through. It's like, I don't feel like you're really doing the origin story justice here, and I feel like that would be something I'd like to see as the first big play.
Yeah, and then the second one is The Fate of Atlantis, which is obviously a story centered around Atlantis and the fall of that empire. So both of these, they're each 3 episodes. They're going to be released 6 weeks apart, which is really interesting. And Legacy of the First Blade will feature, like I said, the first hero to wield the hidden blade, and that'll release in December of this year. Fate of Atlantis will be coming spring of next year. This is the interesting part about the Season Pass. It's also going to include a remaster of Assassin's Creed 3, which comes out in March 2019. Yeah. So it's going to include a remaster of Assassin's Creed 3 that's included in the Season Pass, but you'll also be able to purchase it standalone for an unannounced price. And that remaster will also include a remaster of Assassin's Creed Liberation.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
The Vita game that got ported to PS3. That's ridiculous. Both of those games are like not even well loved either. Those are not
I think that's why they're part of the Season Pass, though, because I think they kind of want to boost the numbers for when those come out for sales. Well, people are assuming that the reason they picked 3 is because this might have some kind of tie-in. Odyssey might have some long-standing tie-in to 3.
Maybe a Kinway or something.
Yeah. And both of the remasters will feature 4K and HDR, and obviously other remastered.
4K 60 on the Ezio trilogy, and it looks great on PS4.
And lastly, Assassin's Creed Odyssey will also have free post-launch content, including an episodic quest line called The Lost Tales of Greece, and then also the Discovery Tour. That's making a return. That's the educational mode for Assassin's Creed, where you can just go through the world without having combat or really game mechanics. You can just explore the world they created, which seemed to be a big hit for people last year for Origins.
With this being released, I should say, that would mean, if I'm correct, the only console Assassin's Creed game that is not on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One would be 1, the original.
Yeah. And remember that Yves Guillemot said that we're not getting a new Assassin's Creed next year? I could easily see them releasing Assassin's Creed remastered in the fall.
20,
you know what I mean?
20 or 30. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have Rogue, and we've got fucking Liberation now.
But I do think if they remastered Assassin's Creed, the first one, I think it would be more than just a straight up remaster in terms of aesthetics. I think they'd actually go in and tweak some stuff in the game. Not maybe drastically, but clean up some of the things that maybe they improved in 2. Who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah. I don't think
Yeah, because it's a big jump.
Oh yeah.
It would be hard to go back to 2, but that still feels like modern Assassin's Creed for the most part, whereas 1 almost does feel like a whole new world, or a whole different world, I should say.
So there was 2 new game announcements at the Nintendo Direct. I'm saving those for last. I think the meat and potatoes of us talking about this is going to be those 2 games, as well as the online service. So I'm going to go through these, and we don't have to talk at length for them, but those 3 things that I mentioned.
10 minutes just so we know where we're at.
Yeah. So the first thing, Katamari Damacy Reroll, which is a remaster of Katamari Damacy, releasing this winter. Civ 6 got a release date for November 16th, which is crazy. That's coming to Switch. The World Ends With You, October 12th, which is a game you and Dom are interested in. I have no interest in that game. Warframe, November 20th. The Yoshi Switch game, the title got leaked last week when the Nintendo Direct was canceled. So it's going to be called Yoshi's Crafted World. It's coming out 2019. So it marked it up for another Switch exclusive for 2019 alongside Pokemon. There was a bunch of Final Fantasy games announced for the Switch, Jordan.
No shit. Well, I know about Crystal Chronicle.
Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles 2019. 15 Pocket Edition, which we already also knew about, launched today. And this is the big one. Final Fantasy 12 Remasters coming out in 2019.
I did not know that.
As well as Final Fantasy 7, 9, and 10 are all coming in 2019.
Damn.
Yeah. Awesome.
Damn, maybe I'll stop playing, because I'm not that far into 7.
Yeah. That'd be cool for all of us to play through 7 together, because I want to play through 2, and this is going to be when I'm going to buy it, is on Switch.
Hell yeah. Dude, there's so many games that I buy buy for a second time on Switch. Banner Saga, fucking Doom. It's like, I love having it portable. We were talking about being anti-handheld the other day, and I'm just like, I love being able to take that shit wherever I want, you know.
We got an update for Super Mario Tennis announced, version 0.2. Birdo, Shy Guy, Paratroopa, and Petey Piranha are the new characters that you'll unlock through online play.
Petey.
And a new co-op mode called Co-op Challenge. And they said through online you'll be able to unlock all outfits for characters, so recolors and stuff like that, which is pretty cool for people who are into Super Mario Tennis. They announced the NES controllers for Switch. So it comes with two of them, $60. You charge them by connecting them to your docked Switch, and they're wireless. Obviously, we'll probably talk about this.
They slide in like Joy-Cons, but they don't look like Joy-Cons, which is shit that people have been dying for, to have like NES or GameCube type Joy-Cons forever, you know?
Yeah.
You could have Joy-Cons that are like super squarey, you know, like not rounded.
Well, I'm pretty sure we'll talk about this more when they actually release, because we're running low on time, so I definitely want to get to that in conversation.
Sure.
They announced a new IP from Game Freak, who are the people behind Pokemon. It's called Town. From what I read, it's an RPG that takes place in a single town, and it looks like turn-based combat. Very chibi style art.
So
interesting.
They're like playing off of like the whole RPG town kind of.
Yeah.
Not trope, but mainstay, if you will.
Not in a bad way, but it definitely looks like more of a budget title, probably like a $20 game.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't expect a lot from it, but it looks like a fun time. We got the announcement of a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Bundle, which includes the game digitally, the dock with art of the 8 original characters from the first Smash Brothers on it, and Switch controllers with the Smash logo going through them. The Smash logo going through the Joy-Cons, not really cool or interesting. The dock itself with the art of the 8 original characters is pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. They announced that Isabelle from Animal Crossing is going to be in Smash. Right after this, they announced Animal Crossing on Switch 2019. Let's go. Finally. At least we have a year. That's great. Which is crazy because that means we have Animal Crossing, Yoshi, and Pokemon, and Fire Emblem.
Confirmed.
And we don't know about Metroid. So, crazy. The other
Metroid's got to be next year. If Metroid's 2020, that's ridiculous.
Listen to this game that was announced for next year, Jordan. Luigi's Mansion 3.
Fuck yeah, I've been waiting on that, boy.
Yeah, on Switch. Awesome.
You knew that was coming when they're doing like the
3DS.
What, are they putting the original one on 3DS? Yeah, so you got 1 and 2 on 3DS now.
My hope is that they bundle 1 and 2 and bring that to Switch. That'd be awesome. Before this game comes out. That'd be really dope. Lastly, the biggest news is the online service. Well, I don't know. Personally, I think Luigi's Mansion and Animal Crossing are bigger, but this is like important to Nintendo. The online service was announced. $20 for a year, $4 a month, launching September 18th, which is the day after this podcast posts. 7-day free trial in the eShop.
$4 a month? If you pay monthly, that's way more than $20 a year. Holy shit, dude.
Yeah. It's like EA Access is $5 a month, $20 for a year, or $25 for a year, sorry. So yeah, they definitely want you to get in for that year price.
Yeah, because it's like $48, I guess. So.
Yeah. Launching September 18th. It's going to have cloud saves, not for all games. Online for the not
Which,
for all.
I get their reasoning because you can like rig online Splatoon or whatever, but
that's an issue we had 10 years ago. Come on.
Yeah, well, and like I mean, you should have programmed the game better because
exactly.
You know, fucking Fortnite or Call of Duty on PS4, you're not gonna have to worry about that, and those are online games. You know?
It just shows that their structure for developing games never included that as a priority because they never had to worry about it. Which I'm not giving them a pass. I'm saying that's why it happened, because they're so behind on that. Whereas we have people making games for Xbox and PlayStation that have kind of had to have those things in place for a long time now. It's going to have online multiplayer, obviously. I don't know if I mentioned this or if this got lost. There's going to be a 7-day free trial in the eShop for people. Which is
cool.
A week. I don't know if I would like a month free trial. A week seems like not enough to see anything. Special offers, which will probably include. They didn't say, but my assumption is discounts, sales, etc., special deals, all that stuff. The one part I want to make note of, Jordan, is they mentioned a bunch of NES games, and remember the original rumor was that it's going to be a rotating group of games, right? And we're like, what? Rotating games? That's gross. Specifically, like 4 times in this direct, they said it will feature a growing NES library. They didn't say evolving.
So you will get to keep your shit, just like PlayStation Plus or Xbox.
They said growing specifically, like 4 times.
Which is just like, they got to beat us over the head with it now because they were so fucking stupid in the way they originally described it. Like, god damn.
Yes, my assumption is that it is a growing NES library.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess we don't have a lot of time, so I just want your really quick. Do you think that from what we've heard of this online service, do you think $20 a year is a decent price? Because for me personally, for what they're offering on paper, obviously we'll get to experience it. I think $20 is cool. It's not a whole lot in comparison.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
With the other stuff that they're giving you, I think that'll add an NES games to your library. That'll definitely. Because I've actually been thinking about jailbreaking my Switch, and they can brick your Switch if you're like pirating actual Switch games, but if I was just doing it to like emulate, I could buy my Switch games and then emulate NES or whatever, and not get it bricked, but they still don't have an untethered jailbreak, so I'd have to be like booting it every time, and so this is a better solution. And possibly until they have an untethered jailbreak, but I think it's definitely worth the $20. And then I also think, like, if you're gaming on the level that we are, like, we're really in love with playing video games, it's like, how are you gonna not just pay $20 for those fucking precious save files that otherwise are just gone to oblivion? You can't offload it to a USB drive like you can on the other consoles. You can't do anything except hope that your system doesn't get fucked up because it's like tied to that system. So yeah, that's the thing. It's not even about whether it's worth it or not. It's like I'm paying $20 for the peace of mind of necessity that the type of gamer I am.
Well, I mean, personally, I pay $5 a year for Pokemon Bank, which is a service that transfers your Pokemon. I would love if that was attached to this, $20 a month. And for people who play Pokemon, you get Pokemon game attached to it, a Pokemon Bank Pokemon game.
Yeah.
I know you have to go, so we're short on time, so let's close out the show. In terms of what we're going to be playing, I'm going to be finishing up the Spider-Man Platinum. The TV show I want to mention is that the Dragon Prince comes out tomorrow as of recording this.
Looks cool.
Yeah, for those unfamiliar, the Dragon Prince is a new animated series coming to Netflix. It has the director from Uncharted 3, and it has a bunch of producers that worked on Avatar: The Last Airbender, and writers. Yeah. So like that combination, I mean, the Uncharted 3 thing isn't a huge thing to me, but the Jason, I want to say his name is Jason Smith, but I could be wrong. That guy, he's done some other work, and like he seems like somebody who really cares about what he's doing. His studio is they have their goal statement, their mission statement was to create a world people enjoyed and not only create one form of media for it. So they're actually working on the Dragon Prince show, and they're also working on the Dragon Prince video game at the same time.
Yeah, I was going to say if they've got Uncharted people or whatever.
And he said the game isn't going to be the story from the show like retold in video game form. It's going to expand.
Which is how multimedia is going to be working from now on.
Yeah.
Which we're entering into this world. It's like you go see Spider-Man Homecoming or Far From Home, Spider-Man 2, and then go play Insomniac Spider-Man 2. They're totally different, but it's all fucking Spider-Man. You love this shit, so play it, watch it, read it, whatever.
Exactly. I think that's pretty much it. I don't want to go too long. There's probably other stuff I can mention, but yeah, just working on that Spider-Man plot, trying to get my first platinum. Also, I want to say I hate you, PlayStation, because I realized that I had to do this weird account transfer thing. I had to make a new account for my PS4, but I had to log onto my PS3 first. I don't really want to get into it. Anyways, what happened was since I logged on and Ni no Kuni was in my PS3, it marked me as playing Ni no Kuni on this new account. So instead of Spider-Man being the only game on my account and it being my only platinum, now I have a 0% on Ni no Kuni on this account, even though I have a higher percentage on my other. It's
dumb bullshit. Yeah. It's connected, and there's the primary system, and there's which Xbox has that too. But I totally know where you're coming from.
But Xbox doesn't have the 6-month issue that people are having recently, where their accounts are getting hacked. It's crazy.
Well, and you can only reset it so many times in a year, I think is what you're describing, or whatever.
Once every 6 months.
I get they're trying to have people not just selling their accounts or whatever, but it's stupid. And especially, we've heard people on podcasts that are in the games enthusiast industry is what I would call it, and they're having to switch consoles because they're playing on debugs for reviews or whatever, and it's just not. It's one kind of like what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, where it's like you're just not, you don't care enough, you know, you're not trying hard enough, basically. So
Before we go, let us know what you're going to be checking out, and then we can close out the show.
So I'm sure I'll finish up Spider-Man. I've actually kind of been blazing through The Shining, so should be finishing that up, and I think what I'm going to do is, you're familiar with Room 237, Jerrad, the documentary?
The documentary.
It's a documentary about conspiracy theories about The Shining, the movie.
Oh no, I was thinking of the James Franco TV show. I think that's called something else. 1983 or something. Yeah. Anyways,
yeah.
Go ahead.
So I think I'm gonna rewatch the documentary before I watch the movie, even though it seems like a lot of that stuff, the conspiracy theories, are bullshit. But it'll still be interesting to look at it through a different lens once I go back into the movie. So I'll be watching both of those. I was watching The French Connection, which is a Gene Hackman movie from 1971. And it is also the term podunk town, when referring to like a piece of shit town in the middle of nowhere, comes from this movie where they're talking about Poughkeepsie. So they're like shortening the word Poughkeepsie to make the word podunk, which I thought is an interesting fact that I read one time. But it's about, you know, like drugs coming in from France over to New York and stuff. It's a cool movie. It's supposedly, you know, a real classic film. So I've been enjoying that. I'll finish that up. I want to give a huge shout out. We're talking about Stephen King here with The Shining and stuff. Castle Rock is a series that just had its last episode of this first season, and it is done by J.J. Abrams and Stephen King over on Hulu, and it's basically, because, you know, Stephen King has a shared universe between his books, and he like makes up these fake towns, especially in Maine, and Castle Rock is one of them. And so this series is basically just like an original story within the Stephen King shared universe. So they actually, one of the characters is Jackie Torrance, who is like a cousin to the Torrance family from The Shining, for example. And there's like different parts of the Stephen King mythos that are incorporated here, and yet it's not necessarily an original Stephen King story or an adaptation or anything like that.
It also has the kid who plays Pennywise, right?
Yeah, Bill Skarsgård is one of the main characters, and he's also the main character in It. So he's got, you know, a deep Stephen King connection, which is actually something that's not unheard of, where like, because Stephen King is the most adapted author of all time, and so you see a lot of people that will be in several Stephen King movies or whatever, but interesting nonetheless. And it's just a really great show, man, especially if you're a Stephen King fan. But even if you're not, I think that there's a lot there, and it's just a really quality show, like kind of a crime drama, kind of a mystery, kind of psychological horror or thriller elements, all like kind of Stephen King stuff. And then a huge shout out, actually, this is a perfect example of what I was just talking about. Huge shout out to Sissy Spacek, who played Carrie in the original movie Carrie, which is obviously a Stephen King adaptation. And she plays like the mother of this, you know, family that we're revolving around. And she's got Alzheimer's, and there's a lot of different stuff that they delve into her psyche, and she's just, oh my god, shout out to Sissy Spacek, who just fucking kills this shit, man. So big shout out to Castle Rock and all the actors. It's a really well made series, and you know, J.J. Abrams obviously has deep roots in TV with Lost and tons of other stuff. So big shout out to Castle Rock. That's how I'll end it.
Awesome. Thank you guys for listening. If you can, please subscribe to us on YouTube. Even if you don't watch the videos, it definitely helps us out. As well, if you can leave us a review on iTunes after you follow us on iTunes, that'd be awesome. You can follow us at CTRLINT on Twitter. That's Controlled Interest abbreviated. I am at Jerrad_. Still fighting for just my name. Person won't give it up. Jordan is at Malamotis. You can go to controlledinterest.com. I posted the audio version of the podcast there as well. If you want to listen to an audio form but don't have iTunes, you can download the MP3 from our site. I guess I'd never mentioned that, but it's a good thing if you don't have, like, want to use a podcast service, you just want the MP3, the raw audio. You can go over there and download that. Dom should be back next week, and we'll see you guys next time.